Hey everyone, so today we're going to be replacing the rear axles, just one on my 2010 XC70. This car can bend axles somewhat easily, and this guy was bent. So if you're wondering how to know it's bent, it's an all-wheel drive car, you're going to want to get all four tires up in the air. I take them off to make it easier. Have somebody put it in drive for you, and then just come around and you can visually inspect them as they're turning slowly, or even you can put, a socket extension or something here, push it on like a stylus reading a record player, and you'll feel it go up and down. So in my case, the driver's side rear was fine. Both the front ones were fine, but this one had a bit of a bend, and in fact, I could see it oscillating slightly as it's coming around, even just barely moving. Now, a trick if one of your wheels isn't spinning is just lightly tap on the brakes, and that should get that wheel that's not spinning to spin. That'll add enough friction to the other wheels to get that one to spin so you can inspect it. Again, it's easiest with two people. Alright, so we're going to take off some stuff. Sway bar links have to go. Spring's got to come out. This trailing arm has to get replaced, or has to come out from that bushing just up over here. We'll see if that needs to be replaced or not. It's original. And the idea is this whole hub will be picked up from the bottom. It leans and comes out, and then you can pull out the drive axle. They are kind of pricey. It's about 600 Canadian pesos, or about 500 USD. FCP Euro has them. Looks like only Volvo makes these, and I've heard from the aftermarket they're not very good, so you might want to avoid those. Yep, I'll check back in with you guys in a bit, but just okay, good morning. So here's part 2 update on removing the rear drive axle. It's been going pretty well. I made a mistake or two of my own that you don't have to make, so hopefully I can save you guys some time. Before we start, long wrenches, flex head with the ratchet. These are 100% worth it for the job. I got a full kit all the way up to 19mm. Don't skip the 18mm, you need this as well. Okay, so onto the work. So I bought the spring compressors from Harbor Freight, and you just put them on, start to compress the spring. I got a good amount of compression in, and then with the second jack just over there, you come up underneath the perch and then pull out the bolts holding it in. You only need to work on this side. The driver's side has the nut captured, so it's not a problem. Back the bolt out, and then with the jack, I just slowly let it down. It won't come down all the way, so I used a dead blow, and I just did a tapping up here, and that popped her down nicely, and then I could pull the spring out. Just be careful if you're using the ratchet wrenches with the spring compressor tool, you can get the head stuck there. Just be mindful. Now, the sway bar end link, don't do what I did. I ended up having to break mine, but don't bother taking the top side out, won't matter. You just got to take out the bottom, and you can counter hold. It looked like an Allen key to me, I was mistaken. I'm pretty sure it has Torx that you have to counter hold with. If you can't get it and it's all rusted, rip out the rubber boot on the back, vice grips, grab a hold of the back, and then take it out, and you'll have to buy a new end link. FCP Euro has them from Lemforder. I think they're like 16 bucks. No big deal. Then the shock, this guy's loosened as well. Again, all the bolts are welded in bolts, so there are no problems. Just back them out. The shock was a real bear with such low ground clearance, but no problem. You can take it out. I forgot the name. I'm going to call it the short link. Same thing. Back out the short link, no problem. And now we're on to these guys. I've been soaking them in penetrating oil, and I'm really hoping they don't give me too much of a problem. To drop this panel, there's these weird trim nuts. I found 18mm to be the right size. It really depends just how rusty your car is, but sometimes you'll get them, sometimes you won't get them out. If you can get them to spin and come down a little bit, I ended up just pulling hard and popping them off, and then I'll figure out a solution for holding this panel back up afterwards. On the driver's side, they just cut it, so I prefer not to. I don't like cutting, but we'll see what we have to do. Anyway, alright, well, stay tuned for part 3. Hopefully this axle comes out without too much of a fight. Welcome to part 3. So, I didn't film it for you guys, sorry. The axle is out now. As I mentioned, those two bolts had to come out, and there's a third one that just holds up some bracketing. No big deal. Honestly, it really went pretty good. No oil's really dripping out at all, and there shouldn't be any oil if your transmission fluid is set right. So part of that is I really would recommend, I got ramps in the front, try and keep the car level or if anything, lean the car a little bit away so the side you're working on is the high point. That should keep any fluid back there. Yeah, so to get this out, it really wasn't so bad at all. There's the newer style, which is completely flat. Option 1, you could buy the tool from Volvo to pull it out. Option 2, you could make the tool. I 3D printed a tool. It just looks like this, just to clamp on, and that gives you something to pry against. Didn't end up using it because option 3 is the easiest. The clip's not too strong, so honestly I just grabbed the axle and gave it a tug. Not crazy hard or anything, nothing to pull the CV joints apart. Just popped right out. I'd recommend using a bungee cord to hold the axle, so when it does come out, it doesn't just drop. And then as far as taking it out from the wheel side, Volvo says you need 2 technicians. Maybe they're weak, but I'm not that strong, and I was able to just grab it, pick it up, and you should be able to just pull this out. These don't really rust in or anything like that. They should have some oil when you put the new ones in, so not a problem at all. I'm going to give everything a bit of a clean, maybe hit some rust paint on the parts that are a little more rusty to keep them going a little longer, and hopefully it's not too bad. It does look like there's a bit of a lead time of about 3 to 4 days to get these axles, so you might want to go ahead and order those before you start the job. And then a couple bolts you'll find. So, for example, this bolt here, I believe it's for the spring perch. You can see it's pretty stretched and worn. These are like $3 from Volvo themselves. I just replaced them. Last thing you want is the bolt to snap when you're putting it in, or snap when you're driving. So, yeah, alright, stay tuned for part 4 where we install this. Hey everyone, alright, part 3 I think we're on now. So the axle arrived, it took about 3 days. It was cheaper to buy it online from Volvo Toronto than anywhere else, so that's what we went with. Not much to report on putting it in. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. You gotta just be tough. Pick this guy up, feed it in on the angle. The CV joints are fresh, so I don't like to bend too much, but you can get it, and then just push it. Don't do anything too hard. It's a gentle joint, but it wasn't too bad. It popped in, and then getting this side in was a bear. Now, you shouldn't need to drop the e-brake, right? Because the diff and the wheel hub should be aligned from the previous axle. I dropped the e-brake just in case I needed to. Not sure it made any difference at all. Pulling this guy in, I did get it to go in by hand, and then just to pull it all the way in, I ran the nut in. Again, I'm using hand tools here. You really don't want to mess anything up and make your life harder. So just pulled it in gently, and then I chucked it with the other side of the vehicle. They're both in the same amount, so then little blue Loctite on that to send everything back in, and should be good. This guy went in without too much of a fight. I ordered new bolts, but they seemed to give more fight than anything else, so I went with the old bolts, just cleaned them off and put Loctite on. They look pretty good anyways. As I mentioned, this plastic shrouding, those clips are just toast, so 2 zip ties holding the back end up. This is plenty firm, it's not going anywhere. On the front, these 2 guys for me were okay. I think these are the ones you really want to watch out for if you bust these guys. Maybe there's something back here, but that could make life painful for sure. Alright, nothing left to now really put everything back together. So this small link will go back in. The shock's got to go back together. And the spring has to go back in. Sway bar end link that I broke has to go in too. Not looking forward to the shock, but yeah. Also, while I was in here, I had some rust just kind of starting, so I gave things a bit of a wipe and a trim-clad black coat. Hopefully that'll help keep her on a little bit longer.